The superstars of Fan Control Football Season 2.0 are not only the who's who of celebrity team owners and influencers, not the 21 million live views of our Emmy-nominated broadcast. Across Twitch, DAZN, Fubo, NBCLX, Peacock. Or our highlights that scored over 100 million views. And we can't forget best-in-class sponsors. But the biggest star of Season 2 is our play-calling app that allow fans to control the action on the field. Fans pick a team, pick a play, 4 run plays, 4 pass plays to choose from. The play with the most votes is called in real time.
We got it.
This is where video games and live action come to life. And now, Fan Control Sports and Entertainment brings you Fan Controlled Hoops, where fans call the shots. Coming 2023, the future of sports is here, and it's Fan Control. Power to the fans.
Are you ready for it?
This is FCTV, fan-controlled television. Programs created and produced for the fans, by the fans of fan-controlled sports and entertainment. As always, power to the fans. And now, it's time for the show.
Oh, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
I was waiting on like one more video to roll, and I was like, it's gonna happen. And then I was like, oh, it just stopped. What's up, everybody? It's all good. I was watching the weather, so there's like bad like tornadoes predicted for so I like was checking the radar, and then I was like, oh, it's showtime. So all right, let's just run this thing back. Guys, what's up? Welcome to the N4Arcade Show, where each and every week we run you through the sports and entertainment news you need to know about right here live on twitch.tv/Fan Controlled Sports. And we are so excited because this week we've got a brand new permanent host to the show, Mr. Frosty, joining me. Frosty, how are you doing, man? Welcome officially to the arcade. Good to have you, my friend.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this. This is gonna be awesome. I'm pumped. Let's do it.
Dude, and you couldn't come in at a better time, because if a little bit like some of you might know Frosty, you might know a little bit about Frosty if you're in the Discord, and that's great. But for everybody else who hasn't met this guy right here, you're probably talking to one of the biggest fans of baseball, like in the entire fan controlled sports world. And this guy's like heavily advocating for them to bring fan controlled baseball to life one of these days. Who knows? It could happen.
Let's hope.
That's a good baseball movie quote, by the way. If you aren't picking up on that, it could happen.
No,
Name that movie. Do you know it?
I'm not naming it. You name it.
Angels in the Outfield.
Here's the thing. I know the movie. I'll tell you why I don't like it. I don't like the Los Angeles Angels.
Okay, fair enough. But they were the Anaheim Angels in the show.
That's true. Fair enough.
Different team, right? No, just kidding.
Yeah, them and the California Angels, none of them are the same team.
Yeah, it's all different. It's all different. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. And if you're watching live with us, please interact with us, drop comments, let us know you're here. Like Jason Wright, who's watching over on YouTube. What's going on? Freddie Airmail, the always ever-present stat machine that's in the chat. Good to see you. We got Rimcage here on Twitch, as well as 49 other people watching live right now across all platforms. So thank you guys for tuning in live. And you might be not watching this live. You might be listening to this on podcast services all around the globe. And hey, thank you so much for listening to our post-show recording, or basically just a run back of the show. But we'd love to have you live. So join us on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to meet you and chat with you here on the show. Anyway, we got a really fun show tonight. Like I said, Frosty is a new permanent host to the show. He's a huge baseball fan. So tonight, with opening day, it just happened Thursday. We got a lot of baseball news to dive into, a lot of like speculative topics of what we predict this season might bring. And then we're going to dive into some NBA, some NFL, some college football, a lot of good stuff tonight. So make sure you stick around. It's going to be a great show. But let's go ahead and hit it off with First Up.
Let's go.
And let's go with our first topic of the night. And guys, if I disappear, it's probably just because our power went out, but I will be back ASAP. I will make it happen. We're just going to do the best we can with the weather here and just pray that it won't matter. Sound good?
There you go.
But if not, Frosty can run this whole show solo. Like, he's the man. So it's true. Yeah. He's like,
please stay.
Please stay. All right, Frosty. Well, let's kick it off something that I know you're super comfortable with, and that is this. Major League Baseball has officially kicked off. We had an incredibly exciting opening day and opening weekend across baseball. And there have been quite a few surprises. I mean, when I'm looking at the standings so far for the major leagues, I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is a thing? Like, what's going on? And that is like, for example, I didn't see, the Texas Rangers being formidable at all. And they've come out of two really great series, undefeated. And then, we've just got some great surprises across the league. We're getting to see a lot of Shohei Ohtani, seeing him come out of winning the World Baseball Classic with Japan and now leading his Angels. So we're going to talk about him a little bit. But first, what are your overall impressions of what you have seen from this season of Major League Baseball? And what do you think we can expect moving forward?
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is people are talking about baseball in a way they haven't in a long time. It was an exciting opening weekend, right? A lot of people tuning in to see who's going to strike out because of the pitch clock. Where'd all these big players go? We had a game the other day that went 2 hours and 5 minutes, 9 innings in 2 hours and 5 minutes. Right?
Which is incredible for baseball.
It's incredible. It's crazy. And so it's been fun. People are stealing more bases this year already. Stolen bases are up because of the bags. You see the cat and mouse game with pitchers and catchers and batters. It's been phenomenal, I think.
Yeah. I honestly, whenever we were going into the season, I knew the repercussions of the pitch clock was going to be huge. I knew that it was going to help speed up games, but I had no idea that it was going to impact stolen bases or just overall engagement from the fans, because it feels like it really has picked up the pace far more than we expected it to. We expected it to pick up the pace a little bit, but it has added a whole other element. And we've also seen some kind of hiccups with the pitch clock as well. The other day, we had an umpire throw out a catcher just on a whim because there was a pitch clock involved. Then there was hey, I need a fresh ball. I don't know if you saw that whole interaction.
Yeah.
That was, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's interesting.
I was just laughing at that.
No, it's so interesting. The players are definitely trying to stretch it, right? They're trying to figure out where they can be. It's similar to, we saw a catcher that called timeout to burn a mound visit because they were going to break the pitch clock. We've seen pitchers tying their shoes to get reset pitch clocks. So we're seeing the gamesmanship, and it's really interesting to see the rubber band effect of how umpires are dealing with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're actually having to come up with unique ways to kind of play the pitch clock. And another thing that somebody brought up to me the other day is nobody anticipated, even from a batter's perspective, is if you have a 95-mile-per-hour fastball whiz by your face and you just get out of the way, you have to step back in the box and get set fast. Otherwise, it's an infraction on you as a batter, and that's just baffling to me, because can you imagine being shaken up from trying to dodge a fastball like that and then being prepared to go hit a ball? It's almost like there's even more of a strategy at throwing a beanball, if you will, or just throwing a wild pitch, because you can almost psych that batter out and be ready for that next pitch and throw one in the hole that's perfect, ready to go. They're not really set, and they're a little shaken. So you might even see more of that, I would feel which to me is cool, because you have a whole other level of strategy happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pitchers. So let's just go down the American League and National League real quick. Just quick standings. Tampa Bay leading the American League East, undefeated, 4-0. Yankees right behind, 3-1. Red Sox 2-2. Orioles 2-2, and the Blue Jays 1-3. Any surprises there? Are you surprised to see Tampa Bay up top?
I'm not. I think so. Yankees and Giants was a huge series to start off the season. Both teams. I think the Giants are a playoff team. I think the Yankees are obviously a playoff team. Honestly, the series that surprised me most out of that division was the Orioles and Red Sox. and those teams going at it. The Orioles are a sneaky good baseball team, and I think folks realized it this weekend with the way they played. So I think that was interesting to watch. I think that whole division, like, there's a world in which like all of those teams like are over 500 and 3 of them are getting into the playoffs, and you're looking at maybe the Red Sox sitting out and the Orioles sneaking in or something crazy like that. It's so close in that division. But Tampa Bay, huge team. I think they'll probably finish 3rd at the end of the year. I think Toronto and New York will be at the top of that division, but it's tight, and I think it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, and another thing too that you're going to see with this Orioles organization specifically is they've got a lot of young talent in the minors that they're working up right now. I mean, they just signed a catcher out of high school, last summer in the draft, and he's pretty incredible. But he's got to work his way up through the minors, and you're going to see a lot more young talent coming up through their organization, and they're already pretty competitive. So. Yeah. Give them a couple of years, and they could easily be competing for the East, if not this year. Like, we could totally see them sneak in there. Tampa Bay, not a surprise. Yankees, not a surprise. The return of Aaron Judge. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show. We don't think Aaron Judge is going to have the same season, but he's still going to have a great season because he's Aaron freaking Judge. Am I right? Yeah. Going to AL Central, the Twins up top, undefeated 4-0. Cleveland Guardians right behind with 4 wins and a single loss. White Sox are 2-3. Royals 1-3. Detroit Tigers 1-3. I'm not surprised about the bottom of the Central. Twins being 4-0. Like, hey, that's like pretty surprising. I mean, I know that they're a great club, but honestly, like, I don't know. That's just not one I would think of being undefeated or saying undefeated. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree. The question is, can the Joey Gallo magic continue to exist for Minnesota, right? The dude's on base percentage right now is .357. He's got 3 home runs and 7 RBIs so far this season. And we're talking about 8 games, right? A guy that batted lower than 200 last year, really struggled. He's a guy, though, that getting rid of the shift is really going to benefit him. The question is, how big of a bat can he be to sustain that Minnesota team? Because they're going to need someone to step up.
Yeah. After all, runs win games, and if they could continue to have the same kind of on-base percentage with this Twins organization, more guys on base means more runs. We learned that. Thank you, Moneyball. We're really interested to see how competitive the offensive plays are in Central. It helps see who's going to stay on top between Cleveland or the Twins. I think it is. I think that's going to continue. Both of them are on a 4-game win streak. Cleveland out the gate, they've lost their first initial game. Maybe it's just getting back into the swing of things, no pun intended. But since then, they are 4-0. That's all that matters. Just keeping the streak alive. Here's one that surprised me. Look to the West. The Rangers did eventually took a loss yesterday, but before that, they were 3-0. They won their entire first series. Not what I expected. After all, in the AL West, they've got the likes of the Los Angeles Angels. They've got the Houston Astros. Like, they've got some competitive clubs, including the former World Series champion. But yet right now they're seeing themselves on top. What do you think about this Rangers organization with this new management that they have in their clubhouse?
Yeah, I think, obviously if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm ecstatic. There's no way you think you go 3-0 there. Realistically, they're probably the 3rd or maybe 4th best team in that division. But they're off to a hot start, and sometimes a hot start could carry you for a while. We'll see where they're at in about 27 more games. I think usually 30 games is a good barometer of where we are. But getting off to a fast start is huge for them.
Yeah, after all, these guys play so many games. So, like, if you have a hot streak for a week or two, that's great. But if you lose one or you lose like 3 or 4, like, you can get those right back. That's the beauty of baseball. It is a marathon. Let's switch gears over to the National League. Not surprised by this one. Atlanta Braves on top of the NL East, 3-1. Mets right behind them, 3-2. The Nats are 1-3. Marlins 1-4. And the Phillies, biggest surprise thus far, 0-4. Not a win for the World Series runner-up. Did the World Series loss really hurt them that bad? What do you think is happening in Philadelphia?
I think it's still early. Again, it's early for Philadelphia. I think they'll be fine. There seems to be a World Series hangover there, right? It seems like they're licking their wounds, which they shouldn't, because no one expected them last year at the beginning of the year to be in the World Series in the first place.
And
right?
you could argue the same thing for the Astros, right? They're 2-3.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
They're the World Series champs, and they got a slow start too. But
Yep.
to see a winless Phillies was kind of surprising.
It's pretty surprising. They went 5 days or whatever it is now without a win.
Going down the list even further, the Reds 3-1, right, tied up with the Brewers 3-1 in the NL Central. St. Louis right behind. They took a loss last night. That game was not pretty if you're a Cards fan. They are now 2-2. Pirates 2-2, and the Cubs 1-3. So the real question is, do we see the Central division of the National League being as competitive as it was last year? I mean, it seemed like it was kind of anyone's race. Do you think that's going to happen again this year?
I do, with the exception of the Reds. I think the Reds will drop off. I think
you think they just had some dumb luck to get them started?
Look, yeah, I watched the first game of the Reds, and it was awful. Hunter Green is your ace, and he comes out and he lays an egg. I think Hunter Green eventually will be good, but that game to me looked more like what I expected out of the Reds than the next three. So I think they'll probably plummet, but I think all the other teams are going to be super competitive and close throughout the year.
Yeah. And then lastly, the NL West, Padres on top 3-2, tied with the Dodgers 3-2. The Giants are 2-2, Diamondbacks 2-3, and the Rockies are 2-3. What do you have to say about the NL West?
Yeah, I would say CJ Cron should be really happy he's in Colorado, because he is hitting bombs. The first baseman for the Colorado Rockies, the most exciting player on their team. But we know it's down to, I think for the division you're looking at, it's either San Diego, it's either Los Angeles. It shows that on the standings. I think the Giants could be a really good team. They were better than expected last year. Still think they're probably right around 500, which could get them in the playoffs. But I think those top two teams showed their stuff this week. I think they're going to continue. And
when you talked about the pitch clock already, it's very possible that the adjustment to the pitch clock is reflected in these records. The teams that have adjusted well to this new kind of speed of baseball are the ones that are able to take the wins, because they're able to handle the pacing of it. I think, like you said, as guys get more conditioned for the season and to these new rules and regulations, I think we'll start seeing the true form of these clubs and how they play out through the rest of the season. Let's talk about one particular player in general. Shohei Ohtani, the man, the myth, the legend, the history-breaking, World Baseball Classic winning, two-way player that is just a gem for the Angels. I want to talk about what he's doing with that team, and I want to kind of speculate here. Here's the question. Is he the best, the greatest two-way player of all time? And do we think that is going to set the precedent for two-way players being more common in the future? Frosty, I know you have a lot to say on this, so I'll let you go first. What do you think about that?
So for me, it's really hard to go above Babe Ruth when you haven't been to the playoffs or really pitched well in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think that's tough. I think Shohei Ohtani will be up there, right? It's going to be a LeBron, Michael Jordan conversation by the time his career is over.
It will be, because they play two different eras of baseball entirely. That's right.
Yeah. When Babe Ruth was doing it, right? Previously the most famous, and probably still the most famous two-way player, right? A lot of guys were doing that. A lot of guys were pitching a ton. A lot of guys were hitting a ton. They're not doing it now, right? Shohei's the only one that's done it successfully in a really long time. So completely different eras, but the success of Babe Ruth, the mystique of Babe Ruth is really hard to overcome when you don't have any World Series rings. And so I think that that's got to come off the board. I think it probably does when he signs with the Dodgers next year, probably. But I think eventually he will. I think he's on pace to be a once in a generation, once of all time player, or one of one.
Yeah, a true one of one player indeed. I agree with that. I think you're 100% spot on with the comparison of, this is like MJ and LeBron, right? It's two different types of basketball, two different types of baseball. When you're looking at this modern day baseball, it's just done so differently compared to what it was back then. I mean, even the pitch clock, that's just a huge change, and that's brand new to baseball.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. He needs a ring to be able to say okay, he's one of the greatest. he might have a bunch of records to his name, but you have to win championships. Arguably, he has one with the World Baseball Classic now finally under his belt. But let's see if he can win with a major league club. Let's see if he can bring home the pennant and then the World Series trophy right after that. I think that will help set him apart. And do we think Mike Trout and the rest of the Angels organization can help him achieve that goal this year? That's the question.
Yeah. Mike Trout, definitely. The rest of the Angels organization is the problem, right? Anthony Rendon's a nice player. I like him. I like to see him hit. He hit a home run left-handed last year. First ever at bat left-handed. But the Angels just don't give me great confidence. They haven't really in, probably 15 years. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I see these two guys who were champions for their country in the World Baseball Classic just weeks ago, now on the same team. They were opponents. They were still teammates, but they were opponents fighting against each other. They were leading both those teams. Mike Trout did an amazing job as the USA captain.
It came down to them.
Yeah, it did. And now you see both of them on the same team. Yes, baseball is a team sport. Jason Wright, it could happen. I love it. Baseball is a team sport, so it's going to come down to all 9 guys. It's going to come down to the bullpen, how the rest of the bullpen plays. Because Ohtani can't pitch every game. It's true.
Although it shows they can close the game if they need it.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. But, I mean, it's going to come down to the entire organization, how well the cylinders fire across the entire engine or the entire machine of the Angels team. So, Jason Wright saying, "Hey, Frosty, stand up and flap those wings, baby." That's what he's saying. That's great.
I love it.
I love it. I was trying to show my boys that movie the other day. It's not on Disney Plus or digital at all.
That surprises me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a classic. But anyway, I think I agree with you on one thing overall tonight, and that is it's still too soon to tell, but it just goes to show that this season is going to be different for sure. Yeah. And I think
it's a great prelude.
Yeah, I think by the All-Star break, we're going to look back and we're just going to be like, this season has been unlike anything else in baseball we've seen in a long time. Because I do think it's getting its spark back. I do think people are coming back around to it. And we'll just continue to see how this clock, simple change makes such a big difference. Now, one thing I want to talk about too, Peanut says, "Go Cubbies all the way." I'll say, hey, you better keep cheering for those Cubbies. They need your help. BC Lion golf. Okay. Masters is right around the corner. We should talk about that later. But one thing I do want to address real quick is with us seeing this rapid come back home to baseball, come back to baseball being the pastime for American sports. Do we need to see a change in minor leagues to be able to reflect that same kind of passion? Because I feel like minor leagues has been kind of dead for a while. I just don't think it has its spark. Do you think there needs to be some kind of change there as well, in addition to the other rule changes they're making to try to pair themselves to be like the MLB? Do they need additional things to help make it exciting?
Probably. It's minor league baseball interests me. And the fact that it has a problem that everyone else has solved, and it is the solution that every other league is looking for. Every league, the NFL, NBA have been trying to come up with their own minor league system, right? Yeah. You got the G League, you got the NFL partnering with the XFL and trying to figure their own stuff out with NFL Europe. But then you also have guys coming straight out of the draft and playing right away, right? I have MLB TV. And they showed Jackson Holliday, who was the number 1 pick in the draft last year, right, for Major League Baseball. We won't see that guy until 25, 26, 27.
Right.
Right. So I think we got to figure something out about that. I think, traditionally baseball has used the minor league system, although congratulations to the minor league players for unionizing and getting their first contract and getting a huge pay bump. I think that's great for them.
I mean, I honestly think that will help it be more competitive because how many guys drop out of baseball because they're in single A or double A and they're just not getting paid enough to feed their family or follow their dream, right?
Yeah, you look at a Russell Wilson, right, who got offered a $2 million bonus to sign with a Major League Baseball team out of college and then make, pennies or go make millions right away in the NFL. What are you going to choose?
Yeah.
Right.
Tom
Every
Brady,
time.
same thing. Like Tom Brady played for the Expos, then left because like baseball doesn't have
Yeah.
money. Football does.
Drew Henson did the same thing. Yeah. It just over and over and over again.
You see it time and time again. Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes was a baseball player. And
Mhm.
like I imagine he would probably still be an incredible baseball athlete had he stuck with baseball, but obviously he followed the money. Another guy we're going to talk about on the show was a two-way player between the NFL and MLB, and he ended up kind of landing in the football space because of money. That's where it's at. So I think money is a great asset that like, could help minor league baseball be better. Another thing I think would help fans, and this is just me personally, I don't know how they're going to make this happen, but if they were to trim down the roster size that you're allowed to have for Major League Baseball to force a rotation of Major League players on these minor league teams, one, I think that does two things. It gets fans excited, like local fans excited for these minor league teams to be able to see these big stars play down or whatever, or at least these average stars who could easily be playing in the Major League Baseball realm. I think it makes it exciting for them, but two, you're also getting the opportunity for these AAA players to be able to like work with some of these athletes to figure out what they need to be mentored to get to that level. I think that would help it be more competitive if we see that happening.
Yeah.
Going over to the comments here, Eeyore Jameson says, tell that to the Savannah Bananas. 100%. What they are doing with baseball and entertainment is exciting. And Peanut chimed in and said that that's the model that Fan Control Baseball needs to have. What do you think? Like, do they need that kind of element for minor league baseball, or is that too showy for you? Like, what do you think?
It's too much. So, I think Savannah Bananas history is interesting. They're not a minor league baseball team, right? They're an independent league baseball team. But yeah, like the Harlem Globetrotters are nice, but I don't want Fan Control the Hoops to be the Harlem Globetrotters, right? It's the same way I feel about the Savannah Bananas and Fan Control baseball, right? If you're doing it, I think you got to take it seriously. I think you got to like elevate the game. I love seeing people swing bats that are on fire. But I don't need to see that every game.
Love swinging.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I love the Savannah Bananas. I watch all their stuff on YouTube. I'm so glad their games are on YouTube this year. They're fun to watch. Yeah. I have a great time. Their marketing is genius, bar none.
And they're taking their show on the road. Like they're touring the US this year, which is super cool.
We tried to sign up for their wait list because they're going to be here in Indiana.
Okay.
The wait list, they said, good news, you're number 68,000. But the early access list before you is 260,000. And then you got to wait another 60,000. So like what they're doing is working. And it's exciting.
Yeah, apparently if it's getting that kind of draw. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. 260,000 fans dying to get in and watch that game. See, and again, like it just goes to show that there are lots of fans of baseball and they're equally fans of entertainment. So with that said, and this might be a topic for future weeks, another time on the show, but what is fan controlled baseball? If it were to ever become a thing, what would it need to draw in fans like the Bananas and to help set a precedent, set that bar for fans around the world? We're going to pick up that topic next week. I think that's a great topic to have.
I'm in.
Cool. Well, let's continue on with the rest of the sports. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's cut over to some college football. Darren Knife says football. Don't worry, we got you. We're going to talk football right now. And this is that two-way player we were talking about before. He played in Major League Baseball. He's also played in the NFL. And we are talking about prime time himself, the man, the myth, the legend, and now the coach for the Colorado Buffaloes, Deion Sanders. There has been so much hype around Deion Sanders coming to Colorado. Did you see the numbers that they have for their spring game?
No.
All right. So check this out. I saw this the other day. I'm going to pull up the exact number because it's staggering. Let's see if I can find it. The Colorado Buffaloes, this is on Ashton Sports and or MSN Sports. They shared it.
Okay.
The Colorado Buffaloes have not even played a regular season game with Deion Sanders as their coach. He's only been there a couple months. Yeah, there's a lot of excitement. They're recruiting players. People are using the transfer portal to jump over to join Colorado. But they now have officially sold out their spring game. Wow. Nearly 40,000 fans are going to pack that stadium. $40,000 for a spring
Wow.
game, April 22. Just to let you know, previous spring games for this organization averages about 3,000 fans.
Oh my gosh.
That was what last year's total was.
Yeah.
So here's the question. There's obviously a lot of hype. Okay, here we go. Overall attendance for the day is going to be 45,000 for this premium event. Largest attended game in CU history. With the previous spring game record coming in 2008 was 17,800. That was the last big spring game. But the average is about 3,000 students. So this is what I want to address here. What do you think about this? Do you think Deion is all hype? Do you think there's enough evidence there from what we've seen of him coaching at Jackson State? Mm-hmm. Like, is there enough evidence to say that he's going to bring that championship destiny, that legacy of bowl wins for Colorado? Like, is Deion that man? Is he that guy? What do you think?
You know, I'm in on Deion. I thought he was great at Jackson State. I thought, we didn't see a ton because he wasn't there long, but what we did see was great. But honestly, in college football, what matters is having the best players. And I think Deion's energy is going to help bring a ton of players to CU. They already have a sneaky good alum association, right? Like some good players have come out of Colorado, right? And so I think that like you can put those things together. And I think that he can turn that organization around. I think he turned that school around. Yeah. The Pac-12 is weaker than it's been in a while, right? And so I think that like they're prime for him to jump. So I'm all in. Like let's see what Deion can do. I think he's the guy for the job.
I 100% agree. He's prime time. And he is super inspirational. He's super passionate. I loved what he did with Jackson State. Yeah. But to see him take over a big school like Colorado, like it just gets me excited because if he can help the Pac-12 be competitive again, not to say that they're not competitive, but with the likes of the Big 12 and the ACC and the SEC, I feel like they are in the Big 10 for that matter. Like if I'm looking at the top Power 5 conferences, Pac-12 is at the bottom of those Power 5.
Yeah,
they're at the bottom. And not to say that schools like USC and UCLA are bad schools. They're great schools. They're great programs.
Or Oregon.
Oregon's great too. Oregon's they're all great clubs. They're all great schools, but they're just not Alabama. They're not Auburn.
That's right.
They're not Notre Dame, which Notre Dame's just kind of floating around independent, but they're still, I feel like, better than any of the Pac-12 schools. So does this change precedent for the Pac-12? That's what I guess I'm most excited about, because if they can continue to win, if they can continue to bring talent across the Pac-12, dude, I think that's a win for college football across the board.
And I'll tell you the one thing I think that's changed and why this is the perfect moment for Deion, the introduction of the NIL. Like NIL is all about marketing, and if you can somehow tie your NIL organization to Deion Sanders' program, it's a win-win for you. So it's going to bring in more money for players as well, which is again going to just feed the cycle.
100%. So not only do they have license deals for players that they can get, but they also have loosened up the rules and restrictions on the transfer portal even further.
That's right.
So a man like Deion Sanders, he is a connector. He is a recruiter. He's going to single-handedly be able to recruit a lot of crazy talent to Colorado and to the Pac-12 inevitably, because ultimately there's going to be a competition for people who can play at Colorado. And if they don't land in Colorado, there's other Pac-12 schools that'll say, hey, we will give you the same deal, if not better, and you can be in this conference and you can make a name for yourself. Like, that's going to happen. There's going to be guys that go to UCLA and USC and Oregon that they had their sights on Colorado, but they ended up falling through, and they're going to land on one of these other schools and have just as great of an opportunity at those schools because of NIL. So it's exciting. It's exciting, man. I do think this is going to be the telltale year, because if he's not, unfortunately, like I know, like it's only one season that he'll be able to like really show off, but I think people are going to either buy all in to Deion in this narrative, or he's going to like shoot himself in the foot and be like, it's going to be a fluke season. So we'll see. Side note, I'm trying to. Do they have this Colorado schedule posted? Let me see if they do. Because I'm really curious to see if they're playing the Horned Frogs again this year. Colorado. Sorry, guys. Trying to see if it has been posted. So they are. They are. They're doing this. That's their first game of the year. So actually, check out this.
Wow.
This is their schedule. They have Black and Gold Day. That's their spring game, April 22nd.
Oh.
So that's in a few weeks, and we're gonna get a good taste of how good this team is at the spring game. First game away in Fort Worth, September 2nd. Then the week after that, they're playing at home against Nebraska. Then Colorado State got a rivalry game that third week. Then Oregon week 4, USC week 5, Arizona State week 6. So I mean they've got a pretty competitive schedule the first 6 weeks of the year.
Yeah, there's not a lot of fluff there.
No, I mean going up against the number 2 team in the nation, like TCU, they got the pants beat off of them by Georgia. It's no surprise, but that organization with Sonny Dykes has a lot to say for themselves because they're trying to come back and say we're just as good this year. Nebraska is trying to make a name for themselves. Oregon is trying to make a name for themselves. So it'll be crazy, and we will learn real quick if primetime is the real deal.
Yeah.
So, man, that's exciting. Switching over to the other football. And I just realized I didn't load in this one piece, but that's perfectly fine. CONCACAF Champions League. If you're not a soccer fan, you can tune out for the next 2 minutes. But CONCACAF Champions League is happening. Quarterfinals tonight at 7 p.m. Central, so 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. The Philadelphia Union, the runner-ups for the MLS Cup, they're actually still competing along with 2 other MLS teams in this cup in the quarterfinals. LAFC is in it, and so is the Whitecaps. So they actually have quite a bit of MLS teams or US team representation here. But what we're starting to see is the entire CONCACAF is getting super competitive. If you don't know what CONCACAF is, it is basically all of Central and North America. So everything going through Central America, Canada, North America, Mexico, all of those leagues are competing in here in what is like our version of the European Champions League.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of pressure over these next couple of years between these national teams and these club leagues because, after all, the U.S. is hosting the World Cup with Canada and Mexico in 2026. That's just 3 years away. So a lot of these Champions League teams right now have players that are prospectively playing for their national teams and trying to find a place in the World Cup in 3 years. So it's super exciting. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to bring this up because I feel like soccer is starting to take off in the U.S. And I think in 2026, it's going to be even bigger. You were right, by the way, about one thing. 2 weeks ago, you said the Columbus Crew were going to come out swinging. And I think that weekend they upset Atlanta, and then they won again last weekend. So now they're on.
They beat Atlanta 6-1.
Yeah, I know. It was
6-1.
It was bad. I mean, to be fair, a lot of starters for Atlanta were playing for their national teams that weekend because it was a national weekend. But it didn't matter. Like Columbus,
6 goals. Yeah,
6 goals is impressive, especially against one of the best teams in the East. So I don't know. Like, do you have? Connor says soccer's pretty trash, though. I mean, I don't know, man. Soccer's kind of.
I enjoy it. Honestly.
It's growing, man. It's growing. Frosty, do you have any insight on any of this stuff, or like what are some of your observations around this?
I really like the CONCACAF. I think it really is the only current measuring stick we have of MLS, and I think the fact that it's becoming more competitive means that MLS is getting better, which is good for us, right? It's raising the talent of our league. So that I'm excited about. I'm sad that LAFC and the Whitecaps are facing off against each other because that means only one of them can move on, right? And I want all 3 MLS teams to move on, even though I would never root for LAFC outside of this. But I think it's a great measuring stick, and it, even though not a lot of folks who are like casual guys, casual fans of soccer pay attention to it, I think for like hardcore fans and folks that have been following MLS since like '96, it shows that all the work going in is paying off.
Yeah, it's true. One of the things I think super interesting is there was only one East team represented here, and that was Philadelphia. Atlanta, LAFC, and Vancouver were all West clubs. Those 3 are still in it, or those 2 are still in it. Atlanta got eliminated. Philadelphia is still in it. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see how this plays off. Other clubs include Atlas, Leon, Violet, Tigres, Montagua. Those are some powerhouse clubs for their representative leagues. And I mean, it's just those 8 teams at this point. Then we go to semifinals later on in the month, and then finals are in June, or at the end of May and June. So it's going to happen. It's going to come up fast. And this is all while National is playing too. Like national teams are playing for CONCACAF Cup as well. So it's just pure chaos.
I wish other sports did this. How cool would it be to have
World Baseball Classic throughout the year, interrupting
just like
the season.
Yeah, but these like clubs, like the Yankees taking on like the best teams in Japan, and you know what I mean, or like
oh yeah, dude, I would love that.
Yeah, or you get like Tom Brady in his heyday driving, flying over to Europe to play against some of the best teams in Europe with the Patriots. That'd be awesome to watch. It's a unique soccer thing, but I wish we did more sports.
Connor over on Twitch is talking about how he says we're really chill, but he wants to know what our thoughts are on Jacob Schaffelberg, who is a Canadian professional soccer player who now plays for Nashville SC and the Canadian national team. Wants to know our thoughts on him. I haven't seen a whole lot of what he's put together this season. I will say that Nashville as a whole is doing really well. This is his second season with Nashville. Last year, he was on a loan to Nashville. He was playing with Toronto. Then he got loaned to Nashville. And then this year, he's already had 5 appearances and 2 goals. So, I mean, for this season to be early on, for him to already have 2 goals, I would say that's really impressive. That's a great start for Schaffelberg. And he just officially joined the team in August is when he signed on for the remainder of the season and then was a permanent addition to Nashville. So I would say it's pretty good, and we'll see kind of what Nashville does. They did really well last year in the playoffs. I honestly thought that they had a shot at making it to the Cup. They were one of the final 8 teams to make it. Right now, they are sitting mid-table, which is pretty good, but it's still early. It's just like baseball, right? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the other thing about Schaffelberg that folks don't realize, like I think a lot of folks don't realize, that Canadian national team is sneaky good. So to make that squad it really says something about a player's quality, because Canada is a really up and coming national squad.
Well, and again, the U.S. and Mexico, they kind of have to be, because they're all co-hosting the World Cup. Yeah. And I think that they are bringing in a lot of young talent, and they're bringing up a lot of talented players that are playing overseas and even here in the MLS. They are having players really start to show that they are just as good as the rest of the world. That's why you have guys from the Premier League or from other big European leagues picking up players from Canada and the U.S. And then those players end up playing for their team. But Nashville's sitting number 5 in the Eastern Conference. They are tied with Columbus.
Not for long.
I know you're a Columbus fan, so we'll see.
Yep, we'll see.
But it'll be interesting. I'm excited for MLS. I love watching every week. So yeah, exciting. And I'm going to try to go catch the game here in a little bit for Philadelphia. We'll see how they do in CONCACAF. Anyway, moving on to our next topic of the night, and that is the NBA. The season is rapidly approaching its end. We are starting to get down to the wire. And man, I've got to say this year is super exciting because there are a lot of teams that are still in this playoff race.
Yes.
Starting with the Eastern Conference, I mean, again, there's only 8 teams per East or West are going to make it. With the East Conference, the Bucks, Celtics, 76ers, Cavaliers, and Knicks have already clinched. There's only 3 spots left. So it feels like the door is pretty much closed on the East, on the Eastern Conference. One thing that is a huge surprise to me is that the most mid-tier team in the entire NBA, the Atlanta Hawks, 39-39, are that 8th seed. Like they have a chance to be in the playoffs with a equal record. They might actually go to the playoffs with a 50-50 record, which is crazy. And then over in the Western Conference, only 3 teams have clinched: the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, and the Kings. The Suns, Clippers, Warriors, Lakers, Pels, all close to there behind, and then many others. So let's dive in. I want to know your predictions on what's going to happen with the Eastern Conference. We have 5 teams locked in. Who do we see taking those final 3 spots? Do we think it's going to stay status quo with Nets, Heat, Hawks taking it, or do we see a jump here from one of these other teams like the Raptors, Bulls, or Wizards?
Yeah, honestly, I think the Bulls are going to move in. I think they're going to take that 8th spot. It's a little bit of a bold prediction, but I think they're hot at the right moment. I think they won something like 7 out of the last 10 games. So have the Raptors. But for some reason, I got a good feeling. I think the Bulls are moving on. I think they're going to get their sneak in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your Indiana Pacers, I mean, they could easily sneak in. They're only 5 games behind, and 5 games it isn't a whole lot of wins. Like just run a streak the rest of the season, run the table, and they're in. I really feel like the Pacers could do that.
I'm really hoping for 2025 or so for that team. So
do they still have Oladipo playing for the Pacers? Who did he got moved, right?
Yeah, is he in Miami now? I think he's in Miami.
Is he from Okay.
At least that's where he went. That's where he went originally. I don't know if he's still there.
Okay.
I liked Victor Oladipo. In Indiana, played at IU. He's a good player.
Yeah, I watched him play for the Thunder. So did he come from the Pacers to the Thunder, or did he leave the Thunder and go back to Indiana? I can't remember.
No, he left Indiana, went to he went to Indiana from the Thunder.
Yeah. So he was one of my favorites to watch. So anyway, so yeah, I think the Nets organization is a mess. I'm surprised that they're the 6th seed, but the Heat definitely, I think they're going to make it hands down. I think the race right now is between Bulls, Raptors, or Hawks. I think the Nets and Heat are going to make it. I think they're going to get that clinch any day now. The real question is the Hawks can't be mid and win, like make it to the playoffs. But I know someone who would say, let's go Hawks, and that's AJ King-Caw himself, who's another coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, another team that's mid right now, Toronto, they're 39-39 as well. So, I mean, we'll see who can put together some wins at the end of the season.
Honestly, the most shocking thing about the standings to me is that the Nets and the Suns have the same exact record. Like, what are the odds, given where those franchises were a couple months ago, that they'd have the same record?
Right. And that's the crazy part too. The Nets are 43-35 in the 6th seed.
Yeah.
But the Suns are 43-35 in the 4th seed.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So who's better, the East or the West? They have more teams that have clinched in the East, and they have more wins happening over in the East. Or are we just saying that the West is more competitive, and that's why we have that? Jay Spacely over in the chat on Twitch.tv is saying, do we think the Warriors slip out of the playoffs? It's hard to say. I personally don't think the Warriors slip. I really don't. Unless they continue a losing streak. They only have 1 loss right now to their name. I would be more worried about the Clippers. The Clippers in the 5 seed. They've lost 2 straight. If they continue on this downward spiral, they will easily get passed by the Warriors and the Lakers, and then be battling for that 8 seed is what could end up happening. But one team that's it's just super weird to me, especially because of their precarious situation with draft picks. The Oklahoma City Thunder have it every right in their mind to want to throw away the rest of the season, go for that number 1 draft pick. That is long gone. They've been competing for the playoffs. They are not trying to tank their season to get a pick. At this point, they're going to get a middle-of-the-road first-round draft pick and a bunch of them. The Rockets, I think, clearly have that locked down for that number 1 draft pick with 19 wins and 60 losses. I don't think it gets much worse than that. And so, I don't know, man. I'm interested to see who's going to be in that 8 seed. The Lakers and the Pels are tied 7th and 8th seed, 40 wins, 38 losses. Timberwolves are 39-40, and the Thunder are 38-41. That is all a 2-game span.
Yeah.
That's 2 games. That goes all the way down to the 10 seed. And then the Mavs are trying to put something together late in the season too. They're right behind the Thunder, 37-42. They're going to make a run. Luka is going to try to step up and make some play happen. They're going to try to figure it out with Kyrie. Dude, the West just has me all sorts of confused. I don't know who's going to make it. I want to know your thoughts.
What's really hard about the West for me is the teams that are left that are battling. I don't have great faith in any of them. You know what I mean? Like none of them give me great confidence. I guess like for me, I think the 2 teams that I'm most confident in the players that they have as far as their pedigree are the Warriors and the Lakers. I think those 2 teams get in, right? The question is, and like the Lakers are hitting at the right time. I think, sometimes you wonder, did they save it all up for right now? Like, was this the plan?
Did they like flip the switch and turn it on? Yeah. Well, I think they have to, because last year they didn't even make the playoffs.
Right.
And they have LeBron James. There's no excuse. Right. There's no excuse. When you have LeBron James on your team, you need to make the playoffs. You're paying that kind of money for that player pool. Anthony Davis, you have that guy on your team with LeBron James and you don't make the playoffs, there's no excuses. So I think they're kind of in that like, oh, we better show up and make it. We better secure that spot.
They added Westbrook, right? They have Westbrook on.
They had Westbrook, but now he plays for the Clippers. So he got traded.
That's right. He got traded. That's right. He got traded.
So he's playing for the Clippers, which is honestly a better spot for him anyway, reuniting with Paul George, his former Thunder teammate, and also Kawhi Leonard. So like I feel like the Clippers, they shouldn't be losing games either, although they are kind of plagued with injuries right now. Westbrook has been kind of carrying the torch over there, surprisingly enough, and he's really great at leading the game with that 1v5 ball like he is. But so we'll see if the Clippers are able to maintain. I don't think the Clippers lose enough to slip out, but I do think they could drop to that 8 seed, and then we'll see them facing off against, the Nuggets or Grizzlies, whoever ends up on top, probably the Nuggets. And I honestly, at this point, I think the teams that are going to drop, I think the Pels are going to drop. That's what I think. I think the Warriors could drop if they continue to lose games and the Lakers continue to win games. I think they'll drop out. Timberwolves, they are starting to get healthy again. They just brought back Karl Anthony Towns. He's back.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Phenomenal.
For Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. So we're going to start seeing the T-Wolves make a run, although they are 3 losses in on a streak right now. Like if I'm looking at this, Lakers have
this means they're due.
Lakers have a 3-win streak in the 7th seed, tied with the 8th seed, which is the Pelicans. They have a 2-win streak. Here's the 9, 10, and 11. Timberwolves, 3 losses in a row. Thunder, 2 losses in a row. Mavs, 3 losses in a row. Jazz, 2 losses in a row. That's 9 through 12 right there. So those are all the teams that are competing for the 8th spot, and they're just tanking. So if that continues to happen, who knows, man?
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be interesting for sure. I tend to agree. I think the Timberwolves are going to sneak in. I think that they might get that 8th seed. That's, Karl Anthony Towns, I have a ton of respect for the guy. I think he's a great player. I think they probably find a way to get in.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're playing the Nets right now. They're in the first quarter. They're only down a point, 18-19. They've got the Spurs in their next game. I think that's a win. The Spurs only have a 20-58 record, and then they play the Pels. So that's a huge flipping game right there where they could easily flip spots. Like if T-Wolves win out against the Nets, the Spurs, and then beat the Pelicans, they're on a 3-win streak at that point. If the Pelicans can't perform, then they easily flip spots because Pelicans are right there on the cusp of that 8 seed.
Yeah.
So, man,
it's doable.
It's wild. It's wild. So, I don't know what you guys are doing. If you guys are like sad that March Madness is over, guys, NBA is heating up. It is exciting. So, very excited to kind of see that play through. All right, let's move over into our entertainment news real quick. We got some big ones. We're going to talk some movies. The first one I want to talk about is a trailer that just dropped. DC is trying to come back. They're trying to start all over with a brand new DCU, a cinematic universe for DC. And the Blue Beetle is on. Hold on one second. The Blue Beetle, they just dropped a trailer for it, and I gotta say, I've always been hesitant of DC stuff because I'm a huge Marvel junkie, and there are several DC movies that I have let me down. One movie that has not let me down in the DC universe was Shazam. And whenever I saw the Blue Beetle trailer, I had mad Shazam vibes. Mad Shazam vibes. So I want to know, like, what do you think about the Blue Beetle? Do you think this movie is going to really hit it off this summer?
Yeah, I do. That trailer was awesome. If you haven't seen the trailer, go to YouTube, check it out. It's starring, I can't remember the young man's name who was in Cobra Kai. He's the Blue Beetle. But yeah, it looked funny. It looked exciting. You know, it's a younger cast, right? Because he's a high schooler. It's mostly a cast of color and Latino, which I think is really exciting. It didn't feel like Justice League and drab, right? That a lot of people complained about. It looked fun and kind of airy and exciting. The special effects look good. I think this is going to be a great movie, and I think it's good. It's a good move to kick off the DCU with the new iteration with a superhero that isn't Superman, that isn't Batman, right? That isn't one of these big guys, but instead it's one of those kind of Iron Man level characters, right? Just like Marvel did. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Blue Beetle is probably going to be up there for me with Shazam. It's very similar. It's a nobody to superhero story, total fluke thing, kind of falls into it. And I think this is almost like a combination of like Ant-Man, Iron Man vibes meets Shazam, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's this guy who stumbles into powers, but he's got this really awesome mech suit that almost looks like a Spider-Man like Infinity War type suit.
It really did. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things from the trailer, honestly, that I thought was just super funny was like there's this AI voice that he's always talking to that is the Beetle itself or is the suit. And dude, it's hilarious. The Scarab and the interactions that they have. There's a moment in the trailer where she's like, hey, you can make anything. Like I can help you create anything. And he like builds this giant sword. It's like, oh, excellent choice. Like the AI is like complimenting it. And I was like, dude, that's great. That's hilarious. And so, dude, hopefully we have a lot of that like kind of comedy humor stuff. Yeah. One of the things that I like about MCU, some of my favorite franchises in there are Thor lately with Taika and what he's done with the Thor series. And then also Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think the reason why is they kind of have that humor aspect as well as all the action and intense story. You have that in Shazam. I like Shazam a lot. And it looks like you're going to have that with the Blue Beetle. So I'm excited about this movie.
And it could lead to a Brewster Gold team up movie where it's just a funny buddy cop type atmosphere in those comics. So like, I think it's a great start,
dude, for sure. And there's still like the verdict is still out on if the DCCU is going to be enough to like rekindle this fandom, I guess, for casual comic book fans. Like I think those diehard fans are there, The diehard fans are always going to follow DCU, just like the diehard Marvel fans are always going to follow Marvel, even if it starts to kind of dip. But I think what we're going to see is Flashpoint is going to be make or break for DC and Blue Beetle. If these two movies come out swinging, and from what I can tell, Flashpoint looks amazing. The new Flash movie looks solid.
Michael Keaton's going to carry that movie, I think.
Dude, I think so too. The star power of bringing Michael Keaton back and then the crossing of universes, like that's huge. And I know there's a lot of other stuff they're keeping close to their chest too, but like, that's the kind of stuff that helps Marvel do so well. And I think DC is kind of taking a play from their book, if you will, and starting to put those pieces together. And I think that's great. I think that's great because more good superhero movies, honestly, at the end of the day, it just means more quality content across the board for nerds like me. And I want quality content. I don't want, dragging storylines. So we'll see. Here's my question though. Do you think Blue Beetle is going to be as successful as Shazam?
I actually think it's going to be more successful than Shazam.
Do you think it's because of the representation and the multicultural thing? Do you think it's because, like, what do you think it is? Do you think it is that piece, or do you think it's something else?
So I think it's two things. I think the representation is a huge part of it. Really, it's like our first mainstream Latino superhero, and I think that's a big deal.
Which Black Adam, it had the same thing. It's like the first big mainstream Persian superhero.
That's right. So I think that's part of it. Also, the excitement around folks knowing this is the first movie of the new era will bring them out to give it a chance. So I think for those two reasons, I think this movie might be almost not quite as successful as Wonder Woman was, but up in that range. I think it's going to be a really successful movie.
For sure. I agree, man. I agree. And Shazam 2, from what I heard, was phenomenal. It did a really good job. I haven't gotten to see it yet, but I love the first one. I'm going to go see the second one. But now I'm falling behind in movies because we're about to talk about there's a lot more happening in movies as well. Kicking over to Freddie Airmail, he said he was sad we weren't talking about the new Barbie movie trailer. Thinking that was here. Sorry, buddy. But he said extended universes are just the same thing as a gazillion sequels, but in a way that doesn't feel as stale as quickly, and people eat it up. I mean, yes and no. I think one thing that Marvel is starting to realize is that they are trying to put too much out there at once. Like with Disney Plus, they're releasing so many different shows and so many different movies. And I think they're realizing with Star Wars, like, hey, let's slow it down a little bit. And I think they're going to start doing that with Marvel. But there's just so many stories to tell in the Marvel universe. So we'll see kind of the pacing in which the DCCU releases this stuff. And that, to me, is what's going to make it feel fresh and exciting compared to just like, oh, this is getting old. So anyway, speaking of Star Wars, we're going to move over into our next topic. And that was is that yesterday, well, I'll take it back even further. Last week, I have a friend of mine who is a Star Wars YouTuber. He goes by the name of Battlefront Updates. Shout out to my boy Elliot. Hope you're doing well, my friend. I got a tweet from him that he was actually like flying international. I was like, oh man, what is he up to? Like I had a feeling that he was up to something. He and several other Star Wars YouTubers were flown out to LA last week to go play the new Jedi Survivor game. They got to play 3 hours of it, along with a lot of other Star Wars YouTubers. And they were all able to play the game, get some insight on the game, and then come back. And they were able to kind of have an embargo time yesterday to release their thoughts on playing the game 3 hours in. And so that's all over YouTube now. Like you can go to Battlefront Updates, you can go to Star Wars Explained, you can go to like you name a Star Wars YouTuber that is in gaming, and they were there, I promise you. And they have some stuff. So go look it up. You will be able to see some new gameplay footage that we haven't seen. Like IGN released like I think a 5-minute clip of video footage. There's like 40 minutes of video footage out there without spoilers on story and stuff that is there for you guys to kind of take a peek at in terms of like combat mechanics and just overall, just like there's just a lot There's a lot. And so I wanted to bring that up on the show because I am a huge Star Wars fan. I was a huge fan of the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order when it came out, and then this game literally comes out in 4 weeks. So, I don't know. Frosty, did you play Fallen Order at all?
I did. I went straight through it, beat it as soon as it came out. Love
Nice.
that game.
Do you see yourself picking
Cal
up
Kestis.
Survivor?
Oh yeah, I already pre-ordered it. I cannot wait for this game. And like all the things we've heard about it so far since the embargo lifted, it sounds phenomenal. I cannot wait. Bigger, better, badder. Cal Kestis, one of the coolest like newer heroes in the Star Wars universe. I'm super excited I'm over the moon excited for this.
The 3
or is
takeaways.
It not a moon?
Yeah. The 3 exactly. That's a good one. The 3 takeaways that we're hearing so far from the embargo, just to quickly sum it up, but you can go research more of it if you want. And this is just things we've seen that are not story spoiler based. So like, I'm not gonna like spoil like the plot at all, but we're seeing a larger open world environment, more to explore, more to do. Which is always great because I love open world exploration games. Like I loved Breath of the Wild. I love that kind of feel. And to me, this game feels like Zelda meets Star Wars because there's all these different puzzles and things to explore. And they're saying there's more of that, which is exciting. 2, combat is so different and so intense, and it's a lot of the same stuff. They haven't changed any mechanics. They just added to it. So it's not so much like you have to relearn how to play the game. They're taking a lot of the same premises of the first game when not changing those, which is exciting, but they're just adding a whole other layer of combat and things that you get to do, ways you get to fight. Kind of like almost as if you've learned new abilities and things like that, which is super great. And then the third thing we're seeing is customization is crazy good. Like the ability to go in, fully change up your character, unlock hairstyles, facial styles. It almost gives you more free reign, like it's your own individual identity of who Cal Kestis is, which is super cool. And even like the clothes that you wear, right? And if you play the first game, like you'd run around and find these ponchos, but they weren't all that exciting. It's like,
there's like 8 different ponchos. Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. Like I can wear a green poncho and it's still the same poncho, it's just different color. Right. And now it's like, you know, you're finding stuff that feels a lot more rewarding that you're equipping right away, and it's all cosmetic. Same with your lightsaber. Like there's so much customization with the lightsaber now and what you can do. So to me, those are like the little things that like keep me excited about like wanting to explore, wanting to 100% a game and like find all of the treasures. Like I'm excited about that. And if you guys want to see more about that or get more intake on that stuff, go check it out. It's all over YouTube. Seriously. I would start with my friend Elliot over at Battlefront Updates. He is incredible, and he's got a lot of other good friends and contacts there as well. So I would do that. But yeah, man, I'm ready for Jedi Survivor. Yeah. Only thing is, it comes out on the 28th, and I'm closing on the sale of my house on the 28th and moving. So I'm going to have to wait to play it. I know, but is what it is. Any other final takes on Jedi Survivor?
No, I just can't wait to see the game. It's going to be amazing, I think. It's my
Likewise.
It and the sequel to Breath of the Wild are the 2 games this year that I cannot wait to play.
And honestly, to me, those are the 2 possible, like, without like playing them, to me, those are the obvious like game of the year candidates. If they come out and they just knock it out of the park in terms of like how they run, like if they run flawlessly in the story and everything is hyped up as they're saying it is going to be, like those could easily be the next game of the year, which is super cool. Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see. Also, another thing I'm excited to see is coming out tomorrow, and that is the Mario movie. The Mario movie is hitting theaters tomorrow. I got my tickets booked for Saturday. I'm taking my 7-year-old and 4-year-old, and we're gonna go cheer on Mario in his fight with Bowser. And so we just have that coming out tomorrow, and then we also had D&D just come out last Friday or 2 Fridays ago. And then John Wick's come out. So there's been a lot of movies, a lot of traction on this stuff. And it's just crazy to see just the response of all of these gaming culture movies and video games, like get like pop culture level excitement. There's so many people I know that are pumped about a Mario movie, like, and all that. But Are you planning on going to see Mario? You planning on seeing D&D? Have you seen D&D? What are your thoughts there?
I'm really excited to see D&D. I thought it was going to be terrible when I heard it announced. But the reviews have been amazing, and the trailer looks like the tone of like I could see myself playing as those characters, like the scene where they revive the dead guy and ask him, they can only ask him 3 questions. Like that sounds like something that's happened to me at a D&D table.
I was gonna say
that was great. I'm gonna see the Mario movie because I have a 7 and a 9-year-old, so it's like you have to.
Yeah,
I'm nervous about it. I am nervous.
You're nervous? What are you nervous about?
I'm worried it's gonna be bad. Frankly,
okay, fair enough.
It shouldn't be. I love
voices or acting. What specifically is gonna be bad?
I think the direction taken with the voice acting is gonna make me nervous, right? Mm-hmm. Like Mario's voice to me is so like ingrained, right? Like those types of things. So I'm a little worried about that. But I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna give it a chance. I hope it does well. I love stuff like this. I love the Sonic movies that came out. Those were great. Like if they can keep pumping that stuff out, it just appeals to me. So I hope it's good.
And I think the reason the Sonic movie in terms of voicing worked so well is like there really wasn't an established voice for Sonic like growing up and stuff. But with Mario, like when you hear Mario, you hear the Charles Martinet, let's go. Like you hear him. And now we'll have to see how Chris Pratt takes on Mario and Charlie Day takes on Luigi. I mean, I've already seen clips from the trailer of Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong, and I'm like, it's just Seth Rogen. Like, it's just his laugh. It's his, But at the end of the day, I have heard that it does a lot. It pays a lot of good like justice and tributes the franchise very well. And I hear that they have a lot of like other little Easter eggs or tidbits into Nintendo as a whole and other franchises. So things that adults like me are going to catch that my kids won't, but I can appreciate. So we'll see how that is. But Dungeons and Dragons killing it. It opened to over 30 million in the box office. And so that I think is far better.
Did I read that it beat John Wick?
It did.
Wow. That surprised me.
John Wick, which was surprising. And the reviews actually put it to where it actually landed 38.5 million ahead of pre-release projections. It fell short of the 40 million, which seemed possible after Friday's returns from last week. And Saturday saw a little bit of a drop. I think people are starting to get ready for Easter, and honestly, like that, like I think the Mario movie is going to do well, just because it's the Mario movie. But I mean, it's Easter weekend, so they're releasing all the movies tomorrow for that reason because they don't want it to interfere with the holiday. But I still think it's going to be just absolutely bonkers. In terms of movies. And honestly, those people that don't want to see Mario, that their kids want to see Mario, but they might want to go see something else, like I feel like that's just going to help spike D&D and John Wick as well.
Absolutely. The John Wick movie series, I don't know how you feel about it. I love the John Wick movie series. I'm so excited to see that 4th one too, but it'll be interesting to see how it does with these like family friendly, even D&D looks, older-ish preteen family friendly.
Yeah, for sure. Creed 3 also did really, really well in theaters as well. Wow. It didn't do as well, I think, as one would hope, but I mean, it was competing against the likes of, John Wick and all these other films. So it kind of makes sense. But Creed 3 is actually already, from what I saw, it's already headed to streaming. Like,
oh, great. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's gonna be a long time before we see Dungeons and Dragons, John Wick, or Mario hit streaming. Though I think those are gonna stay in theaters for some time, and they're gonna continue to be a hit. Mario movie out tomorrow. Go buy your tickets. Go check it out this weekend. Take your family if they're in town visiting you for Easter, or you're in town visiting them, and go see D&D. If Mario's not your thing, go see D&D because I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. All right, time for the main event. This is our boss battle, our final topic of the night. Let's go ahead and kick it off right now. right. Time for the boss battle. We're going to have to make like a 16-bit Frosty for that video one of these days.
There you go.
We're going to have to.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We can do that. We could definitely do that. All right. So this topic I did in honor of you. I feel like you might have a lot to say on this one. But tonight's boss battle topic, and if you're watching at home, please let us know your thoughts or your opinions on it. And if you're listening to the podcast, tweet at us as well. We would love to engage with you on this topic. But here is the question. What is the best MLB rivalry of the modern age? Not talking about all time, because I feel like all time it really comes down to one or two like teams, like or one or two like two rivalries that I would say like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
But with the way baseball has been the past 5-10 years, what are you leaning toward being the best MLB rivalry in the modern day baseball?
Wow. So, when I think about that, I think about I start with the most controversial team in baseball, which is the Astros, right? I could say the Astros and about anybody, right?
The Astros and everyone.
And in some way that is, right? Like the Astros have become the evil empire, right? Because of the cheating scandals and the stolen.
And honestly, some would even say just straight up Astros Yankees.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to pivot to. Absolutely, it's Astros Yankees for me if I'm putting two teams against each other.
Yeah,
those teams hate each other, like legitimately hate each other. Everybody all the time. And I love it. It's great for baseball to see that. It reminds me of those old Red Sox and Mets and Yankees, like back in the day. Reminds me of those types of feuds. But there's some bad blood there. And I don't see it going away as long as those teams are as good as they are.
That's good. That's good. Honestly, that's phenomenal. Whenever you look at historic rivalries, you've got the Cubs and the Cards. You've got the Cards and the Royals. You've got the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. You've got the Yankees, Red Sox. You got a lot of classic teams there. You've got the Rangers and the Astros. Like there's so many classic teams. Even the battle for LA, right? You got the Angels and the Dodgers. And to me, that's where I'm going with for the modern one is the Angels and the Dodgers.
I love that.
I feel like there's a huge battle in LA for who runs that city, especially now, with all the controversy. Another one that I would totally want to throw in is like the Braves being a team that is highly controversial. Like there's a rivalry there with Freddie Freeman and the Dodgers too. Like
that's a good one.
Do that, but I'm going to stick with the Dodgers Angels. I think there's just this precedence. Like both those teams are just really good. They're really like you were talking about, like Astros and Yankees. As long as those two clubs are really good, like it's kind of hard to not see them as rivals. Everyone's going to always go back to that World Series and go, well, the Yankees got cheated out of that World Series.
That's right.
And they're never going to let that go.
That's right.
And why should they? Like, rightfully so. Right. They can argue that all day. I would too. I still I know there hasn't really been a World Series win for the Angels, but they definitely are trying to make a name for themselves. And the Dodgers are like, we're the champions. We are the kings. We're consistently battling in the playoffs, either winning pennants or winning a World Series or getting dang close to it. Angels, where are you? And so it's kind of like this David Goliath type story, except David's got, two amazing all-stars on their team in Mike Trout.
Yeah. Two of the best baseball players in the world.
So, I mean, so I would feel like that's probably my two. But I honestly, I think you're probably right. I think Astros are just like the most hated team in the MLB.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many times do you see, like, when the Astros are playing, no matter who they're playing, there's fans banging on trash can lids or whatever. You know what I mean? Just, like, calling that team out. And that team, like, their players have character. You know what I mean? Like, when they're on, like, the news, right, they give it as well as they get it. And so they're really exciting. The other one I would put out there is a good one as well, is the Nationals and Phillies. And you see, like, Bryce Harper going, being shipped across the way. They're in division, two teams that really just don't like each other.
Yeah. And honestly, like the Nats, like they haven't been doing very good, but I still think there's just this great hatred for the
Yes.
Phillies from the Nats because
Yes.
of Bryce Harper.
Yep.
And it's one of those things like, you can look back to Babe Ruth, like he left the Red Sox to go to the Yanks, and it
Yep.
created this whole spin up in this
Yeah.
curse and everything. And, and the Cubs curse was legendary. Like those are the things that like, player moves like that and upsets and championships. Those are the things that help create these conspiracies of like, oh, they're cursed or they're this,
Yeah.
And, I feel like that is really what's going to help set some of these. Like when people look back at the modern era now, like in the future, when they look back at baseball today, those are the things they're going to remember. Oh, well, remember when the Braves just completely screwed over Freddie Freeman and he went to the Dodgers, and then like the Braves still did well, but there was just this tension because, they gave up one of the best players in baseball and Freddie Freeman. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the same thing with Bryce Harper, like Bryce Harper going from the Nats to the Phillies. Like, it's crazy. I watched the Royals back. I was a Royals fan growing up, watching them when they had Jermaine Dye, Carlos Beltran. They had Johnny Damon all at the same time. And they still
that's a great squad.
They still lost all the time. Like I watched those years and watched those players like grow up into their prime, and then to see like Jermaine Dye win the World Series MVP, see Carlos Beltran win so many rings to play for Johnny Damon as well to go get all the championships he did. And so like, I mean, it's just crazy. Like you never know like what personnel change is going to make a huge difference or like where those players are going to go. So it'll be interesting to see, but, do you think we have a possible Astros Yankees World Series again this year? Like I could totally see
they'll be in the ALCS against each other for sure, I think. Right? Like
that's right. That's what I meant. Like, do we see them face off to have one advance or whatever?
It feels inevitable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it always feels like that's what they're building towards the AL. Like that's the season finale of the AL every year. Is like the Astros and the Yankees walking to each other's stadium.
Yeah, I always forget that they moved the Astros from National League to American League, so that's why I was like hesitant. But either way, it's no different. Like to me, that's way more possible. Like way more of a possible outcome to see those two in the ALCS versus like a Red Sox Yankees. Like that used to be the thing. And everyone's like, oh, every year it's the Yankees and the Red Sox head to head, and that made the ALCS so fun to watch. Come September, October to see those two teams face off for a shot at the series. Like, dude, that was always exciting. So we'll see, man. But well, dude, that's the show. That was the show. How do you feel about your first official show?
I'd give myself a C. It was pretty decent.
C minus.
I'll get better. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. That's what I was shooting for. No.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll get better. No, it's been a great time. I enjoy talking to you just generally. And so doing it here is even more fun.
Yeah, it's
people
fun.
People can critique us while we do it.
I'm so glad you agreed to come help and be a part of the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you guys want to listen to Frosty and us just kind of chat away about all things sports and entertainment, make sure you guys tune in. We'd love to chat with you guys, just like we're chatting with Freddie Airmail, It's Jay Spacely, Connor, BC Lion, Peanut. We love all you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to the show. So make sure you guys tune in live each and every week on Tuesdays at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. And if you can't catch us there, we'd love to have you listen to us on podcast services around the globe. But it's been a lot of fun. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Remember to share this podcast with everybody you know. We hope to see you next week on the show. And until next time, remember, power to the fans.